John Thompson's Saturday morning began with an earthquake. Or at least, that's how it felt. The ground trembled beneath his feet. His coffee maker rattled on the kitchen counter, spewing a weak stream into his favorite mug. World's okayest. Neighbor. Birds scattered from the pine trees outside, and the familiar sound of early spring peace was obliterated by the thunderous roar of an industrial-grade diesel engine. He blinked at the clock. 6:04 a.m. He shuffled to the window in his robe, rubbing sleep from his eyes, and pulled the curtain aside. What he saw defied logic. A Semitruck, a gleaming red Kenworth with chrome stacks, no trailer, and mud-caked wheels, was parked dead center in his front yard. Its massive tires had chewed through his pristine grass, crushing his rose bushes and creating deep gouges that oozed muddy water like open wounds. The truck idled with the smug, mechanical purr of something that knew it didn't belong, but didn't care. For a long moment, John didn't move. His eyes darted around, looking for signs of a film crew or some prank show camera. Nothing. Just the truck and the rising steam from his ruined landscaping. Then the driver's side door creaked open. Out stepped a woman. Early 50s, maybe, with blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, oversized sunglasses, and a pink velour tracksuit that clashed aggressively with the morning light. In one hand, she held a floral mug that read, "My Way or the Highway." In the other, a small leather-bound planner that she waved like a badge. She turned and noticed John watching from the window. Without hesitation, she began walking directly toward his porch. John opened the door before she knocked. Hi," he started, trying and failing to sound calm. "Is that your truck?" "Oh, don't worry about it," she said with a tight smile, sipping from her mug. "It's just temporary." "Temporary?" he repeated. "It's parked on my lawn." "Yes," she said cheerfully. "I cleared it with the HOA." John blinked. "The HOA?" Karen took another sip. "Yes. Chad approved it yesterday. I have it in writing if you need confirmation." "I'm not even in the HOA," John replied, the disbelief cracking through his voice. "My house was specifically excluded from the HOA zone when the development expanded 10 years ago. I'm not a member." Karen tilted her head slightly, as if she were trying to understand a particularly dumb child. "Well, technically, but functionally you are. We all are. I mean, we live in a community. Community means compromise, right?" He stared at her. She stared right back, still smiling. The truck let out a low hiss of compressed air behind her, like some wild animal exhaling from a deep, mechanical chest. This isn't..." John struggled to form a sentence that matched the scale of the insanity parked outside his home. "This is my property. You can't just..." "I appreciate your concern," Karen said, flipping open her planner and tapping a page with her manicured nail. "But I've got a lot going on today. The truck stays for now. Should be gone by, well, Tuesday at the latest, unless weather delays the move." With that, she turned and walked back toward her own house, 3 doors down, sipping her coffee. Like it was just another morning on Maple Hollow Lane, the engine kept purring. The roses were dead, and John stood barefoot on his porch, the sun rising behind him, and a semi-truck claiming dominion over his lawn, like it had always belonged there. Something wasn't right, and somehow he knew. This was just the beginning. By noon, the neighborhood had begun its Saturday rituals. Mowers buzzed, sprinklers clicked on in unison, and someone 3 doors down grilled something that smelled like burnt ambition. But John Thompson wasn't enjoying the weekend. He was pacing in his living room, chewing a cold slice of toast, staring out the window like a prisoner watching his warden. The semi-demon truck was still there, lounging across his lawn like it paid rent. Even worse, a growing number of neighbors seemed to be admiring it. "Is that a Mack Titan?" one of them whispered to another, walking by with a dog in tow. "That's a beauty. Real talk on those." "Talk? On my lawn," John thought bitterly. He needed answers. And more than that, he needed leverage. With his property deed in one hand and a printed copy of the neighborhood zoning map in the other, he drove to the HOA office, 5 blocks over. The small brick building sat at the edge of the park, like a bunker pretending to be a welcome center. A sign on the door read, "By appointment only, because respect is mutual." He rang the buzzer anyway. A short, frazzled woman eventually answered. "You have an appointment?" "I need to speak with someone on the board," John said, keeping his voice civil. "It's urgent. There's been a mistake." The woman, her name tag read Mary Beth, admin level 2, arched a skeptical eyebrow. "You're not in the system." "Exactly," John said. "I'm not in the HOA, but one of your board members claims she got approval to park a truck on my property." Mary Beth typed something into her ancient-looking desktop computer. Then she frowned. "What's your address?" John gave it. Her frown deepened. "Sir, according to our records." She paused. "You don't exist." John blinked. "I'm literally standing here. I have a mortgage. I pay taxes." "I'm sure you do," she said carefully. "But our files stop at lot 42. You're lot 43. She leaned in and lowered her voice. "Technically, you're in the unincorporated buffer zone." "Buffer zone?" She nodded, glancing over her shoulder. "It's land that used to be part of the HOA tract, but was exempted in the 90s due to a technical issue. You're outside the official borders." John's pulse quickened. So Karen lied when she said the HOA approved this. "Well," Mary Beth said slowly, "Karen's been active on the board for a long time. Sometimes she treats policy as more of a suggestion." "I want to speak to the president," John snapped. Mary Beth hesitated. "You mean Chad? He doesn't usually speak with non-members." "I'm not a non-member. I'm a victim." Her fingers hovered over the intercom, then stopped. "Sir, I'm going to be honest with you. If Karen parked something on your lawn and claimed it's under HOA protection, she probably didn't get formal approval, but she has influence. If I were you, I'd just let it ride out. Let it ride out." What was he, a slot machine? John stood abruptly. "This isn't over." As he left the office, Mary Beth called after him, almost too quietly to hear. Be careful with her. By the time he returned home, the truck hadn't moved, but now a laminated sign had been zip-tied to the grill. Approved under Section 4A, Temporary Functional Utility Use. It had the HOA logo in the corner and a signature. Chad's John stared at it for a long time. He reached for his phone and snapped a photo. Then he Googled, "How to legally remove a vehicle from private property that's not in an HOA." That night, the truck's cabin lights blinked on. No one was inside. John didn't sleep that night. He tried. Lord, he tried. But every time he drifted off, the low mechanical hum of the truck outside would jolt him back awake. It wasn't just that it was noisy. It was that it felt deliberate, as if the truck was humming for him. By 3:09 a.m., John was sitting at his dining table with a steaming mug of coffee and a pad of legal paper filled with scribbled notes, arrows, and a crude map of the neighborhood. The words "buffer zone" and "Karen Chowker's board" were circled multiple times. Something wasn't adding up. If his house wasn't part of the HOA, never had been, why would the HOA president's signature be on the laminated approval sign? Why would Karen act so confidently? And why was Mary Beth, the meek administrator at the HOA office, so cagey? That morning, John made a plan. Not just to stop Karen. He needed to know what the HOA was hiding. At 10:15 a.m. sharp, he returned to the HOA headquarters, wearing sunglasses, a cap, and a fake delivery vest he'd bought from a thrift store years ago for a Halloween costume. "Morning delivery," he said to the sleepy-looking teenager at the front desk. "2 packages. Heavy. Can't leave them outside." The kid nodded, lazily, buzzed him through. John walked confidently down the hallway, passing cubicles and the dull hum of printers. Most of the staff were distracted by donuts in the break room. He followed the hallway until it turned sharply left, past the authorized personnel-only door Mary Beth had glanced at yesterday. Locked, but the handle jiggled slightly. No alarm, just an old-school deadbolt. He hesitated only a second before pulling a bobby pin from his pocket, thanks YouTube, and fiddled with the lock. 2 minutes later, it clicked open. He slipped inside and shut the door behind him. The room was small, musty, and colder than it should have been. Filing cabinets lined the walls, each one labeled by year, going back decades. A few old computer towers sat on a desk, unplugged. The air smelled of dust and metal. John opened a drawer labeled 1950, 1965, and flipped through brittle manila folders. Most were boring. Zoning permits, landscaping guidelines, architectural restrictions, but one caught his eye. Lot 43, acquisition dispute. His address. He pulled it out and flipped through quickly. Scans of handwritten letters, faded maps, and photos. Black and white aerial shots, showing the neighborhood before the expansion. In red marker, someone had circled his property. Do not integrate. Exemption granted post-construction. Subject to legacy clause. Legacy clause. There was more. At the bottom of the file, paper clipped behind a letter from a 1974 legal firm was a typed memo on crisp yellowing paper. Note: Lot 43 remains functionally unincorporated due to original title holder refusal. Do not allow board-level overrides. Property is under protected designation until further notice. SB, HOA records. Chief John frowned. His property wasn't just outside the HOA. It had been deliberately kept out, by law. Then why was Karen, acting like she could override it? Suddenly, a light flicked on outside the office door. Footsteps. Fast ones. Panic gripped his chest. He quickly shoved the folder into his jacket and slipped out the emergency exit, into an alleyway. By the time he got home, his hands were shaking. The truck was still there, silent now, almost like it was waiting. John stared at it, his heart thudding. Someone had been lying to him. Karen, Chad, maybe the entire HOA. His house wasn't just excluded, it was shielded. But from what? He looked down at the folder. He hadn't noticed before, but tucked deep inside was a photo. Black and white. His house. Only, it wasn't. It was something else. Before it was torn down and rebuilt. In the photo, the original building had no windows, no driveway, and a sign on the lawn that read, "Property of Federal Observation Program." His breath caught in his throat. The truck's headlights blinked. Twice, though no one was inside. By Sunday morning, John had reached a breaking point. He stood at the edge of his ruined front yard. Arms crossed, eyes locked on the gleaming red Semitruck that had made itself disturbingly comfortable. A hummingbird darted past. Somewhere, a sprinkler clicked to life. But in front of him, a 30,000-pound machine that defied reason, and so far, physics. The neighborhood kids had started calling it The beast, Karen of course, was nowhere to be seen. John dialed the tow company for the third time. Yeah, I've got the deed. No, it's not a shared lot. No HOA jurisdiction. Yes, I want it removed. Today. The dispatcher sighed. All right, I'll send someone, but we already tried yesterday. I know, John snapped. They said it wouldn't start, and it wouldn't winch either, she added. Truck locked up the moment we tried to tow. Like the brakes were fused to the axles. Never seen anything like it. John hung up and paced the edge of his porch, like a man awaiting trial. 20 minutes later, a heavy-duty tow truck arrived. This one larger than the last. The driver, mid-40s, grizzled, chewing gum, like it owed him money, stepped out and gave the situation a long, low whistle. Nice rig, he said, clearly impressed. Whoever parked it's got expensive taste. Whoever parked it is clinically insane, John muttered. Can you move it? We'll find out. The driver climbed up, opened the cab, and tried to start it. Nothing, not even a click. The battery was fine. John had checked it himself, but the key wouldn't even turn. The driver furrowed his brow. Weird. Feels like it's stuck. He wiggled the key again. Then the dashboard lights blinked once, but only for a split second. John leaned closer. Did you see that? Yeah, the driver muttered, pulling his hand back. Like it's got a mind of its own. They hooked up the winch, secured the chains, and began the pull. The tow truck groaned. The cable went taut, and then snapped, slapping the ground with a metallic crack. Jesus! The driver yelled, jumping back. John's heart pounded. The red truck hadn't budged an inch. That night, sleep came in fragments. Every time John closed his eyes, he heard it, the soft exhale of air brakes, the almost imperceptible tick of cooling metal. Around 2 a.m., he got up and checked his security cameras. What he saw chilled him to the bone. At 1:47 a.m., the truck's headlights flashed on, though no one was near it. The cabin light flickered next, and then, slowly, the truck rolled forward, by itself, only a few feet, then stopped. Its wheels left fresh grooves in the grass. Then, at 1:53 a.m., Karen appeared. She stood facing the truck, whispering something. The audio was too distorted to pick up, but her body language was unmistakable. She was commanding it. A moment later, she lifted one hand. The truck's engine rumbled to life, then quieted. She walked away. By Monday morning, John was spiraling, printed stills from the footage, and posted them to a neighborhood Facebook group with a caption that read, "This is not normal. This is not over. Karen, explain yourself." The post was gone in under 5 minutes. Deleted. Not by him. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Stop digging. You'll make things worse." Attached was a photo of him, taken from inside the truck cab. John didn't leave his house for the rest of Monday. Not after the message. Not after seeing his own face, caught candidly through the windshield of a truck he couldn't open, couldn't move, and that, by all logic, shouldn't have the ability to take photos. He checked every camera on his property. None faced the cab directly. None of them could have caught the angle of that shot. And still, the photo had found its way to his phone, sent by a number with no name, no caller ID, no trace. Someone, or something, was watching him from inside the beast, and that someone had access. He shut the blinds, double-locked the doors, considered calling the police again. But what would he say? "Hi, yes, I'm being harassed by a semi-truck, and possibly a secret HOA cult leader who communes with diesel engines at 2 a.m. That'd go great. Instead, he went old school. Tin foil, binoculars, notebooks. He started watching them. By nightfall, John had his blinds cracked open, camera ready, and a thermos full of coffee. His front window now looked like the post of a war correspondent. A clipboard sat on the sill with a list of names and times. The neighbours were acting weird. He'd always known Maple Hollow Lane was a little Stepford. Overly cheerful, matching porch flags, overly aggressive block parties. But this was something else. 13 p.m. The Delacours, Lot 38, walked their dog past the truck. They didn't stop. But the dog, a friendly golden retriever, froze. It sat down and growled low in its throat. The Delacours kept walking, yanking the leash, ignoring it completely, like they couldn't hear it at all. 46 p.m. Old man Gilroy, from 2 streets over, stopped across the road. He stared at the truck for exactly 47 seconds, not blinking, then turned and walked away. Not toward his house, toward Karen's. 10:31 p.m. Karen emerged, wearing the same pink tracksuit. She circled the truck 3 times, tapping the hood gently each pass. On the 3rd lap, she stopped, pulled something from her pocket, and slipped it under the windshield wiper. John zoomed in through the camera lens. It looked like a key card, black, unmarked. She didn't retrieve it. Around midnight, the streets went quiet, too quiet. John got up to refill his coffee when he noticed the glow, faint red light blinking from inside the truck cab. He returned to the window. That's when he saw it. His own security camera, mounted just above the garage, was now twisted, facing away from the truck, as if someone had physically reached up and moved it. John bolted outside, flashlight in hand, barefoot, adrenaline surging. He circled the truck. No footprints, no signs of movement, but the camera was undeniably pointed toward the sky now. He adjusted it back. Then he noticed something on the truck door handle. A fingerprint, smeared in oil, fresh. He backed away slowly. Then the dashboard screen inside the truck flickered to life, just for a moment, and on it, in green block letters, 4 words appeared: "You shouldn't be watching." The screen blinked off. Back inside, heart hammering, John reviewed all the night's footage. At 11:13 p.m., just before Karen's 3rd lap around the truck, the footage went dark for precisely 6 minutes and 39 seconds. No static, just blackness. Every camera, every angle. When it returned, his front door was unlocked, and his mailbox was open. Inside it, a folder. No return address, no markings, just a single sheet of paper with a typed line. "You were never supposed to inherit lot 43. John stared at the sheet of paper like it might catch fire. "You were never supposed to inherit lot 43. It was typed in courier font, cold, mechanical, old school, and below the line, in faint embossing, was a seal he didn't recognize. Not government, not HOA, something else. A circle divided into quadrants, with a gear, an eye, a tree, and what looked like a key he placed. The paper under a blacklight, nothing. But when he rubbed his thumb along the corner, faint indentations appeared. Someone had written over the page and removed it. He shaded the area with a pencil. Words slowly formed. If he starts remembering, shut it down. John's stomach turned. Who was he? The next day, he didn't leave the house. He didn't answer the door, even when the mailman knocked twice. The truck hadn't moved, but somehow, it felt closer. Like the yard had shrunk around it. He dug through every box in his attic, searching for paperwork. Anything about the house's past. His dad had left the property to him 10 years ago, in a brief, borderline cryptic, "Will, you'll be safe here. Just don't mess with the boundaries." At the time, John thought it meant neighbors. Now it felt like a warning. Finally, tucked inside an old toolbox, he found a heavy manila envelope, labeled simply, Tessia, for when they come back. Inside were 3 things. A faded Polaroid of his father, younger, standing beside a different version of the house. Same lot, same tree in the yard, but the building was all steel and slats. More bunker than home. A topographical map of the neighborhood dated 1972, with Lot 43 shaded in red, and a key. Not to any door John recognized. Flat, metallic. Unusually heavy, with a square-cut groove. And no markings. There was also a note, written in shaky handwriting. If the truck comes back, it means the lock has opened. The HOA isn't real. Not to us. Karen is just a proxy. They always use proxies. Whatever you do, do not let it connect to the house. Once it roots, you'll forget everything. John's mouth went dry. He looked out the window. The truck wasn't just idling anymore. Thin cable now extended from its undercarriage, dragging through the grass like a vein. It was slowly, deliberately, snaking its way toward the foundation. John grabbed the key and the map and ran out the back door, hopping his fence into the woods behind the property. He followed the old survey lines from the map until he reached a rusted, half-buried metal hatch he'd never noticed before. It took the key, the lock clicked. Beneath the hatch was a ladder leading into concrete darkness. For a moment, he hesitated, then descended. At the bottom was a corridor, dusty, lined with yellowed insulation, and full of machines. Old ones, tubes, blinking panels, labels in codes, a wall of tapes, each labeled with dates, some going back to the 1950s. This was no storm shelter. This was a monitoring station. At the far end, a control panel sat blinking red. A square screen flickered on as he approached. Static resolved into a message. Reactivation sequence detected. Truck 43, reboot in progress. Route protocol. 71%. John stepped back. Truck 43. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was a system. A system somehow. Tied to his home. Tied to his family. And now it was waking up again. Suddenly static crackled from an old wall speaker. A woman's voice came through. Soft. Calm. Karen. John. I told you not to dig. Now it's too late. You've been marked. Return to the house before the truck fully sinks. If you stay down there, you'll forget who you are. Just like your father did. John stumbled backward, his breath echoing down the forgotten corridor beneath his yard. Just like your father did. The speaker popped once more, then went silent. He stared at the control panel as the red blinking light turned steady. The words updated again. Route protocol, 100%. Sync complete. Lot 43. Status. Integrated. No. He'd failed. The cable. The truck. It had reached the house. The sync was complete. He bolted up the ladder, lungs burning, heart racing. When he emerged into daylight, he nearly dropped to his knees. Because the sky didn't look right, the clouds were frozen, literally still, like a paused video, and the street empty, too empty. Maple Hollow Lane had always been pristine, but now it was sterile. Not a sound, not a bird, not even the distant hum of Karen's annoying wind chimes. The grass had a strange shimmer to it, like plastic in sunlight. His house. It looked the same, but wrong, off, as if something had reassembled it from memory, and almost got it right. John approached the truck. The cable had burrowed into his foundation. Where the grass once grew, the earth was now a smooth, metallic mesh, pulsing faintly. He touched the cab. The The door clicked open. Inside, everything was spotless. Monitors blinked in rows, where a steering wheel should have been. Wires fed into sleek black panels. One screen showed a layout of his house. Every room, glowing green except one. The attic, which pulsed red. Memory anchor detected. Integrity compromised. What? He raced back to the house, bounded up the stairs 2 at a time, and threw open the attic hatch. The air was thick, humid, electric. His father's old boxes were gone. In their place sat a mirror, tall, rectangular, rimmed with cold steel, and on its surface wasn't John's reflection. It was his father, pale, hollow-eyed, and mouthing something silently. Then the reflection blinked, and looked directly into John's eyes. "Help me," it mouthed. Before it finishes overriding, John stepped forward instinctively, and the mirror pulled at him, the edges glowing like a portal on standby. The attic door slammed shut behind him. He reached for the mirror, and suddenly, voices everywhere. From inside the walls, the lights, the floors. Lot 43 is awake. Contain the anchor. Remove the anomaly. Prepare Karen. John clutched his ears, stumbling back. A siren started. A low subharmonic rumble from beneath the floorboards. The whole house began to tremble. On his phone, notifications exploded. HOA alert. You are in violation of boundary protocol. HOA alert. Property realignment imminent. HOA alert. Acceptance required. Tap to submit. And below them, a glowing button. Accept integration. He dropped the phone. It shattered on the floor, but the sound didn't register. It didn't make any sound at all. No sound existed anymore. Just the pulsing voice of the mirror, whispering his name now. John. John, don't accept. Remember. He backed away as the room around him shifted. The attic walls rippled, folding in like fabric. The window turned black, not dark, blank. Then came the knock. 3 sharp knocks. From the other side of the attic door, he froze. A pause. Then Karen's voice, muffled, but terrifyingly calm. John, this is your last chance. Open the door and submit the form, or we'll reset the entire lot, just like we did to your father. John's heart hammered in his chest, like a frantic drumbeat. The attic door shook with each knock, the sound like thunder in the tiny room. Karen's voice was cold now, no longer pleading, but commanding. Open the door, submit, or the reset begins. John's mind raced. The glowing mirror pulsed, beckoning him to remember, to resist. But the house, the truck, the entire world outside felt like a cage, slowly closing in. He glanced at his shattered phone on the floor, the screen flickering faintly. The accept integration button still hovered in the shattered fragments of glass. With trembling fingers, John reached toward the mirror. His father's reflection appeared once more, silent, desperate. Then the attic door gave a violent shove, splintering the frame. Karen stepped inside, her expression unreadable, eyes dark with purpose. "This is bigger than us," she said quietly. "You don't understand the legacy, John. Lot 43 is a containment zone. Your family was chosen to guard it, not live in ignorance." John shook his head. "Then why destroy me? Why erase everything?" Karen's gaze softened, almost sad. "Because the system must stay clean. You're the last anomaly, the memory anchor. The reset will wipe the glitch, and then peace." John swallowed hard. "What happens to me?" She reached into her pocket and pulled out a sleek black device, one like the card she'd slipped under the truck's windshield wiper. "This," she said, "will erase your memories. You'll forget the house, the truck, all of it, but you'll be safe. Safe from the system." He looked at the device, The control panel below the truck's cab blinked in sync. 100% sync. Reset imminent. John's mind flashed to the quiet nights, the faceless watchers, the feeling of being a pawn. Could he accept forgetting everything just to live? Was peace worth the price? A sudden crash startled them both. The mirror shattered. In the shards, John saw not his father, but a smiling figure in a black cloak. The same emblem from the paper seal, glowing faintly on its chest. "You can't run from your past, John," the figure whispered, voice layered and distant. John's breath caught. The attic trembled violently. Lights flickered out. The system was rebooting. John lunged for the device. Karen tried to stop him. "Don't," but he pressed the button. White light engulfed him. The world dissolved into a void of blankness. When John opened his eyes, he was standing outside the house. The truck was gone. Neighbors smiled, oblivious. His phone was normal. His memories, fragments. The truck, the messages, the secret room. All faded like a dream, slipping away at dawn. But as John walked down Maple Hollow Lane, he paused. In the distance, across the street, Karen stood watching him. She smiled, and in her hand, the black keycard glinted in the sun. John's heart tightened, because even if he forgot, the system never forgets.